Guten Tag, WAP. This is Mr. Liniger. Let's make history today for Unit 4, Day 1, 1900 to present. We're going to spend the next 2 days going over World War I. But let's get started with our daily punishment. What do you call a ghost of a chicken? A poultrygeist. Key terms for today: Maine, von Schifflin Plan, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, unrestricted submarine warfare, the Zimmerman Note, the Lusitania, the Western Front, the Eastern Front, Gallipoli. We're going to go over the causes of World War I and the progression of World War I around the globe. So there are some long-term causes of World War I. It's called Maine or mania. Militarism. There's going to be militarism. The European armies are going to be creating larger armies and larger navies, which is going to cause stress. The Germans start building a larger navy, which worries the British. The French increase their draft age. The Germans increase their army size. There's going to be increased tension because of militarism. We have alliances, which we talked about before. There's going to be the Triple Entente, which becomes the Allied powers when World War I starts. The Triple Entente was Britain, France, and Russia. And we have the Triple Alliance: Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, which will become the Central Powers, although Italy will join the other side. It's going to be made up of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire for the Central Powers. We have increased nationalism. World War I is going to start because of an event that happens in the Balkan regions. We've talked about the Balkans before. The ethnic Serbs there want the people that are ethnically Serb to be part of Serbia, the Slav. Austria-Hungary had some Slavic land in Bosnia-Herzegovina, so they're going to be trying to push, the Serbs are going to be trying to push that area breaks off from Austria-Hungary and joins Serbia. Because of that, their government will indirectly support terrorism. We have imperialism. There's fighting for land in Africa, like in Madagascar. The thing that caused World War I immediately was the assassination of the Prince of Austria-Hungary, Franz Ferdinand. This is A. This is where you get mania. What's going to happen is Austria-Hungarian Prince Franz Ferdinand will be assassinated. The people that did assassination were indirectly, they were a Black Ops squad that were indirectly linked with the Serbian government. Austria-Hungary is going to pick a fight with Serbia. They're going to make some demands that Serbia will not meet. They're going to go to war with Serbia. Serbia will call on their ally Russia for help, because remember Pan-Slavism. Austria will ask Germany for help. Germany will go to war with Russia when Russia starts to militarize their border and put soldiers on the German-Russian border. After that, France is going to start putting soldiers on the border with Germany. Germany will declare war on France. And then Germany's war plan was to defeat France first, quickly. This is called the von Schifflin Plan. They're going to invade through neutral Belgium. Because they invade through a neutral country, and since Britain was already allied with France and Russia, Britain's going to declare war on Germany. So from this one assassination, which was done by the Serbian government, it's going to cause a chain reaction, a domino effect, which is going to lead to World War I. All European countries thought this war would be quick and decisive. This shows the alliance system of the Central Powers and the Allied powers that we mentioned. Let's talk about where World War I was fought. The Western Front was the fighting between France and Germany. It's going to be fought mostly in France, in this area right here. Soldiers will dig trenches. You'll have trench warfare on the front. There'll be machine guns and artillery. Neither side could advance against others' defenses. There'll be huge massacres. You might gain a couple miles of land and lose like 100, 200,000 soldiers. Both sides will impose blockades on the others using navies and submarines. In the Western Front, it's going to mostly be Germany versus France and Britain. The Eastern Front is going to be in Russia and Poland right here. It's going to be Germany versus Russia. The Russian army was still not modernized. They had aristocratic officers, peasant soldiers. They were unprepared for the war. Germany had the most modern army in the world. What's going to slowly happen in World War One is you're going to see the destruction of the Russian army from the German army, and they're going to slowly lose territory to Germany. In the Eastern Front, unlike the Western Front, it's going to be a war of maneuver. It's not going to be static. They're not going to be stuck in the trenches. Germany is going to be more advanced and be able to do better in the Eastern Front. There'll also be fronts in the Italian and Balkan fronts. Russia is going to fight Austria-Hungary in the Balkans. They'll fight them right here, this area right here. They'll do better because Austria-Hungary was also not very modernized. Bulgaria is going to join the Central Powers in 1915. In 1915, Serbia and Montenegro will be overrun by the Central Powers. Italy will join the Allies, but they'll gain very little territory. They won't do that great against Austria-Hungary. Germany will send soldiers to help Austria-Hungary out. Romania will join the Allies to regain Transylvania, but they will be quickly overrun from Austria-Hungary with German help. Germany is going to slowly take over this front and send their own officers in the Italian and Balkan fronts to really dominate and plan and coordinate the war effort in Italy and the Balkans. There is going to be a lot of propaganda during the war. We're going to see total warfare develop in World War I, where countries are using propaganda. They're trying to make money. They're selling bonds. They're doing rationing. They're trying to encourage people to join the war effort. There'll be new types of technology in World War I that will be used. That's going to make this a bloody war. Machine guns. When people get out of the trenches, they go into no man's land. And a lot of the times they get shot down. You have tanks, which are going to be one of the things that helps to end World War I. It leads to breakthroughs. Submarines, which the Germans will use to try to sink British ships who are doing blockades. Fighter pilots and bombers and zeppelins. World War I will also be fought in the Middle East. The Ottoman Empire will side with Germany as Britain and Russia had proven enemies. Britain and Russia will try to conquer the Ottoman Empire in the Battle of Gallipoli. The British will lose a lot of men in this battle. They will not be successful in conquering Constantinople. The British will then invade the Middle East. They'll use Indian and colonial soldiers. They'll also send a British officer there, Lawrence of Arabia, who will help the Middle Eastern soldiers rebel, the Middle Easterners. He'll promise that if they rebel against the Ottoman Empire, they'll be given freedom after World War I. We will break that promise. In 1918, Jerusalem will be captured, and then Baghdad before. The Russian armies will drive the Turks back into Turkey. At first, the Christians will welcome the Russians. Then Germany will send soldiers to help the Ottoman Empire out. The Russians will retreat. As a result of this, and as a result of the Christians being happy, the Ottoman Empire will go crazy. They'll start to commit a genocide against the Christian Armenians who had welcomed the British and the British soldiers. The Arabs will revolt during World War I against the Ottoman Empire with British aid in promise of independence. The French and British will promise Arab states independence after World War I. They'll also promise the Jews a homeland, which that was called the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration kind of goes against some of the promises they're promising the Arab states, and it's going to be a source of contention after World War I. World War I will also be fought in the Asia and the Pacific. Japan will join the Allied side because they want to get Germany's possessions in the Pacific and Asia. They'll seize all of Germany's islands in the Pacific Ocean. China will also join the Allied side to get a voice at the peace conference. In Africa, the European countries have African colonies. The Allies will quickly overrun all the German colonies except for East Africa. Many African divisions will serve in Europe and the Middle East, especially British and French African divisions. And that leaves the United States. America at first is going to try to stay neutral in World War I. They don't want to get involved, or at least a large majority of the Americans do not want to get involved. What's going to happen is the British were blockading the German ports, so Germany couldn't get trade goods. Their ships were being sunk. They couldn't trade with other countries. They needed to trade with other countries to get food to feed for their people. So to try to break the blockade, Germany is going to start to do unrestricted submarine warfare, where they have their submarines underwater start attacking Allied ships. What's going to happen is those ships are going to sink some American ships and British ships with American passengers. The most famous example of that is the Lusitania, which was a British passenger ship that had 100 and something American citizens in there. The British claimed this was a peaceful merchant ship. In reality, the British were secretly sending weapons in the Lusitania. They thought that the Germany wouldn't attack the ship because there were Americans in the ship, and Germany didn't want America to get involved in the war. They're basically using the Americans as human shields. We won't find out about this until later on. But after the Lusitania is sunk, Germany is going to promise not to do any more submarine warfare. In 1917, Germany was starting to starve because of the blockade, so they're going to reintroduce submarine warfare. They're going to quickly sink some American ships, not necessarily intentionally. In 1917, Germany realizes that America is going to go to war with them, so they write a telegram that was going to be sent to Mexico. The British intercept the telegram. The German telegram to Mexico asked Mexico to go to war with America. In return, Mexico would get back the land they lost in the Mexican-American War. Britain sent the telegram to America. The Americans were outraged that the Germany was trying to get another country to attack them, and they were neutral. So America will declare war on Germany in 1917. America will fight in this war, but for a majority of the thing, America's major support in the war is going to be to send supplies, to send food, to send weapons, and it will start sending troops in 1917. In 1917, Russia will have two revolutions. The second one will be the Communist Revolution, the November Revolution, and they'll sign a separate peace with Germany, and they will get out of the war. So by the time 1917 happens, Germany has caused America to get involved in World War I on the Allied side, and Russia has just left the war. Germany's going to move all their soldiers from the Eastern Front to the Western Front and try to defeat France before America could send their soldiers there. Dun dun dun! And that's where we're ending for today. We will finish up with World War I next class. Until next time, deuces. Deuces, deuces.